Smart 24, driving business.
Well, Uganda's pension sector continues to grow, and of course, our conversations today are rotating around the entire sector, really, and then trying to understand how it is, and then how you, a Ugandan, can take charge of your saving plan or your saving scheme as an individual. And of course, we're looking at it from the perspective of the regulator. Clearly, I think you will be, you will be, and you should be excited in relation to what we are having in here as our conversation for the evening. This is the point where we analyze economic policies among the key issues that affect the country and how they impact onto your lives. And of course, I'm still with the CEO of the Uganda Retirement Benefits Regulatory Authority, Mr. Anthony Suruga, and as we are trying to get deeper into understanding more of the entire pension sector. Like I did mention, you can join our conversations. That is on our Twitter, Smart24 TV now. Then YouTube is Smart24 TV. And of course, we are streaming live there. We can easily get in touch and try to share a little bit more of those questions with the guest here in studio so that we can easily know who is watching, how you're enjoying the conversation, is it impactful, and how important is it? And of course, as we continue, Mr. Subuga, when you look at our pension sector, what consideration do you think and steps can be taken to strike a balance between the market competitiveness and ensuring the protection of the pension members' rights and their benefits more so?
Yeah, thank you. Market competitiveness, it's a very delicate one because the market, in terms of competing for space, the structure of the law seems to is skewed more on the mandatory side, and that creates a dominance of one giant scheme called NSSF. But nonetheless, there are other occupational schemes. Today we are licensing 65 schemes, and all of them compete for space in terms of membership, especially when we go to the voluntary window. The structure is that those who are mandatory, like NSSF occupational ones, which are normally biased towards employees of a particular employer, and then who sponsors the scheme. But then there are those umbrella schemes that attract the individuals or members who would wish to come into the market. How are they? What are the considerations in terms of ensuring that the competitiveness is not skewed? First, there are clear standards that the regulators set in terms of putting limits in what, not necessarily that we've capped, how, for example, on the costings, but we require more transparency and disclosure. So we publish in terms of who has spent what. So the market has a known operational limit of some sort. So operations as a percentage of investments is around 1.3%, 1.2%. So anyone that is out of that, beyond that, becomes an outlier. Have we seen those who are beyond the 1.3% of their investments? Yes, a few of them. Have they made effort to restore that to normality? Yes, because we've been able to identify the excesses and put controls in place. Then when we go to the service providers who are competing for business of the little schemes that we have, I think that's where the biggest challenge is in terms of managing the operations, not to kill the services they bring to the market. We need to be very, very mindful of that. But at the same time, we need to be mindful of them not charging exorbitantly the schemes, because if they do, that affects the money that goes to the member. So the balance is that how do you ensure that you are not overcharging but offering a service? We've not again set caps, but we've adopted the policy of publishing. Publish average costs by each scheme, by each service provider, and subsequently members are able to see. And then we require kind of disclosures in terms of what goes into your costing, your pricing model that you've adopted, such that we get to know how you've been able to build the scheme.
Yes.
Again, those help to know that the competitiveness, it's not that we want to kill growth of the service providers, but also mindful that competition has to be within a framework that has been designed. Not that it is highly controlled, but it is really evident that there is a mirror of some level of control in the competition bit. Mm-hmm. So by and large, that provides that comfort in terms of competitiveness.
Okay. Well, as furthermore, when you look at how does the Uganda Retirement Benefits Regulatory Authority provocatively monitor, first of all, and regulate the establishment, the management of these retirement benefits, more so when it comes to the operations of these retirement benefit schemes in both the private and public sectors?
Monitoring is what keeps us awake, and that's what we are paid for. We need to monitor what is happening in the sector day and night. We need to follow the market, but it starts from who are the players. Each player needs to be licensed and subsequently monitored, your performances, your behavior in the public. If you're creditworthy, you are not trusted, then you have a risk if you're board of trustee, and therefore we monitor your operations. People will ask, how do you monitor us? We have, I think there are around 1,000 trustees to date. Yes, the network does. The beauty is that in Uganda, things don't go under the carpet for long. Still, it will come to surface at some stage. Now, the second level is if you're a trustee, do you ensure that you meet your fiduciary duties? Have you followed what you're supposed to do in terms of filing of your returns, monitoring you? Where are you investing the money? Is it within the framework that has been designed? We are monitoring you. You must meet a minimum level of what to invest and where to invest. We are monitoring you. Are supposed to keep your funds with a particular custodian. The flows and operations, we monitor that. We know the flows. We can comfortably know where members' funds are invested, in which asset classes, where they are located, and how they are faring. So continuously, schemes and service providers file regular returns to us, which we analyze to inform us on the decision side, whether we need to move into action. We've also set other requirements for what you need to provide to us in those returns, what are you supposed to disclose. We are monitoring you. And where you fail, we sanction you. We also enhance our regulations in terms of strengthening, tightening here and there.
Okay.
The first ones were more from the compliance side. Now we are going into the punitive ones. So going forward, effective this last month, we now penalize for non-performance. We sanction. The regulations now give us that powers. So all those help us to monitor what is happening. It's a very structured way of doing things. Are we up to the game? Yes, to some extent, but we grow over time. We are only 11 years in this market of regulation, but we've been able to enhance our capabilities. Other people have the capacity to do that monitoring and oversight work, yes, and that's the skill that we always enhance. We have the systems that are helping us or enabling us to execute that. That's the journey we've embarked on. And that's what I talked of, the risk-based supervision system, which is our very important initiative to be able to detect risks in real time. But nonetheless, most of the investments are all invested in on platforms that have a pricing mechanism that we can be able to know and detect in real time to some extent. So there's a team that is dedicated to monitor the market on a daily basis. There's a team that follows the investments of schemes, not necessarily for each particular scheme, but in sector-wide, what is happening in asset class ABCD. We also know their money is across the border in Kenya. So you need to follow the trends in the Kenyan market and then be able to appreciate the risks and be able then to mitigate against them.
When you mention Kenya, it brings me to, it makes me very curious. Do you have some examples that you could actually provide in relation to how successful the interventions or the regulatory actions that have been taken by UBRA to address non-compliance issues or the fraudulent activities within these benefit scheme sector mainly? Do you have some examples that you can share with the viewers?
Examples of regulatory actions and sanctions.
Okay.
I think it's not wise to discuss those details in a public domain like this.
Okay.
But yes, we act as a supervisor, as a regulator. We enforce, we sanction, we penalize, we monitor what is happening across. So in Kenya, we have a significant concentration in equities side. I think over 60% of our equities portfolio is in the Kenyan market.
Okay.
And largely in Safaricom, those ones, and I think Equity Bank. So the issue is that what happens there, we need to know how it affects us. Now, there is also money invested in government securities in Kenya. I think there is one infrastructure bond that was issued in Kenya so many years ago. We still have a stake in that investment vehicle. How do we monitor it? We follow the trends, and we can know. The good thing, there's a cross-listing of those in some equities on our market and the Kenyan market, so we can easily know the trend. But it's not free. We subscribe to their platforms to know what is happening, for information, and then be able to provide answers to anything that would have discovered and be able to act accordingly.
Well, of course, as we continue our discussions further, I've just received a text from a friend here who wants to briefly understand that how does UBRA work hand in hand with NSSF? Because when you look at this, UBRA is a regulator. But briefly, a breakdown of how UBRA and NSSF work together, more so in this pension sector.
Yes. I think first you need to look at it from, we are the regulators of the sector, so we regulate them. From licensing their board of trustees, we are in charge of licensing them. We monitor their investments, so we dictate where the investments are supposed to be in terms of defining the limits and the asset classes. We also demand particular requirements for financial reporting and disclosure, so we set a standard for that. But besides, we also undertake on-site inspections where we need to establish or to carry out an investigation or a monitoring exercise in terms of trying to monitor what is happening within a regulated entity. But we should also look at it from a relationship of having a common agenda to contribute to the development of this country for purposes of growing the sector. They've been there longer than us, despite us regulating. But they also have the resources to execute quite a number of things, which we don't have. So if we define an agenda, for example, we are working on a development agenda for widening the scope of saving for retirement. There are discussions going on in that space, such that together we can be able to come up with a solution to that space, where they need to do certain things of corporate social responsibility, where we think we can partner with them. We've done in the past, like the 7 Hills Run, we've been able to participate in them where resources have been available to us.
Okay.
So it is it is more of a focused relationship that is attempts or that is geared towards providing safety of members' fund as a priority, protecting it. Number 2, to ensure that we provide that confidence to the person out there who serves with NSSF. And number 3, to ensure that those who have been given the responsibility of a fiduciary duty that's the custodians or even the people who are in charge, that is the managing director and the rest, meet the minimum requirement to be in that space. So there's a clear framework which needs to be, which is in place to ensure that relationship that is very successful.
Okay.
Now we've gone ahead to create another level of engagement with them.
Okay.
A regulator, because the intention is to grow the sector.
True.
Bring the sector in a regulated environment that is structured, that is supervised, that creates that trust to the person out there. And that's our that's our aspiration. Has it been the case in the past? Of course, when you are an adult person and they give you a young person to be your father, the few things that you feel uncomfortable with, but that is nature, that is human beings. But over time, you come to terms to reality that yes, despite this person being a young person, because UBRA was established by an Act of Parliament of 2011, and yes, NSSF of 1985, you can just imagine the variation in age. If you were to use age, you can be tempted to think that yes, the could tendency of undermining the regulator. But that was in the past, the initial stages. But as they came to realize the role and the importance of having a regulator world over, if you want to build trust, you cannot say I'm the alpha and omega and therefore I can be able to take charge and provide that confidence. No, somebody has to check on your excesses. Somebody has to put controls in place. Somebody has to define the modus operandi is how you need to operate and within which framework to operate.
Okay. Well, and of course, before we even go into the break, if to look deeply in understanding UBRA, we are in a world of innovation. We're in a world of technology advancements. And there's a very huge growing concern in relation to how companies, more so in the public sector, are adopting to these various trends. And this brings me to understand what strategies has UBRA laid in order to encourage innovation and technology advancements within the retirement benefit sector in the country, and then particularly in terms of improving service delivery and also member experience.
Innovation is one of our core values. So first, we reward any person, any staff or even individual who innovates anything new and supports us. Number two, we've attempted to make our work more from the automation side. Like I said, we started from purely compliance, which means it was a paper, tick box, cities, etc. But we've developed most of the tools we are using in-house. That means we have a very strong IT team that is very innovative in terms of, we started by filing returns manually, then we innovated filing returns online in-house. We didn't get a person to do that. Then we complaints, people used to come, written documents with volumes of papers. Now they do filing of returns online, again, done that one in-house. Now we are doing the risk-based supervision, which is going to enhance, to relate all these innovations under one platform, but also enhance our analytical bit to provide a more informed oversight. So again, we're developing that one in-house, develop basic ICT systems capabilities. Of course, we've used a few experts to help us develop that. But yes, we are really in it to support the journey of innovation, and it's a continuous process. New things come up. And even the new regulations we have are a result of innovation. New things happen, and then we need to deal with them through an innovative mechanism to resolve an issue, a long-term arrangement, that because saving for retirement is not short-term. You need to always be on top of your game, always be innovative in terms of what is supposed to be done. And we also encourage the entities that we regulate to have a particular standards in terms of their work. For example, all administrators must have a particular system that captures contributions and posts members' money, okay, not members' money, but updates their statements and then post them to the member or shares them to the member.
Okay.
Then you can share any information online. We encourage them. It's not that we finance them, we don't have that money, but we've set the standards to require them, and we've seen a very positive response from the market players to enhance their capabilities of innovation in terms of systems, etc. So that's the journey of MOVE. But we are on a journey that is of many years, but we're on a very
promising
right path.
Okay. And of course, a journey does start with a single step. But of course, when the targets are there and you want to experience huge changes, you always have to remain quite positive. Our discussions now takes a break, but we return once more at the hour of 8 as we continue to analyze more of what is up with the progress in the growth of the pension sector in the country, what is being done, what should be done, really, and how then can we encourage Ugandans in getting into the pension sector. It is one that is supposed to be ideally a discussion for everybody, not only those who are employed, but also the self-employed Ugandans. That is what we're going to be having and sharing ideas onto immediately after the break. So stick around with us as we continue to have more insights and more understanding into the saving schemes, but furthermore, a breakdown of Uganda's pension sector.
Smart 24, driving business.
Blue magic is my choice. Blue magic, Nalaba kumabala atukuza nonyirirawo kirako enyange tayisa bubi fabriki kyonna kyekiri kigwa lwa blue magic is my choice. Ono blue magic ye wange ambye blue magic is my choice. Ono blue magic ye wange